Good evening, everyone. Okay, we are on, all right. Welcome, everyone, to the Page Unified School District Governing Board regular meeting. Today is Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. We're going to go ahead and start this meeting off at 5 p.m. Can I get a roll call, please?
Chuck Weiss. Mike Mangan.
Sandra Kinman.
David Carey. Desiree Fowler. Barb Shields.
Bryce Anderson.
Thank you. I'd like to ask all of our board members to lead us off in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, board members. I'd like to ask everyone to join us for a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Item D, approval of agenda. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion was made by Dee, second by Charles. Motion carries with 5 votes. Item 2, announcements and comments. Looks like item A is going to be statement concerning announcement and comments. We do have one here. When we're going to go ahead and give you 3 minutes, but we're going to ask Sandra to go ahead and do the reading. You will be given a warning, and we'll be timing the 3 minutes as well. Go ahead and read.
Public complaint concerning facilities, services, personnel, and instruction are not heard by the board until the district's due process procedures are followed. Forms for filing complaints are available at the superintendent's office. To address the board, please fill out a blue card and give it to the superintendent. The board reserves the right to limit public comment due to time constraints. All comments are held to 3 minutes.
Okay. Can you hear me
Give us-
okay?
Yeah, give us a minute.
Okay.
All right, good to go.
Okay. Hi, my name is Gwen Laszlo. Thank you for having me. At last month's PUSD board meeting, there was an agenda item of contracting food service for the Glen Canyon Outdoor Academy. No board member motioned to discuss the item when it came up in the agenda, and the item was therefore dropped, leaving no possibility of approval. Following 2 years of being promised the ability to contract for food service, GCOA learned only a few weeks prior to opening that food service through PUSD was no longer an option. Now at square one and with few options, GCOA is scrambling to secure food service, and students starting at GCOA this week do not have access to the free public lunches to which they are entitled. I implore you to please reconsider this agenda item. I do not know the reasons the board chose to not even discuss this item, but please consider the existing contract for food service with another alternative school, which is a similarly different model from PUSD and is meant to supplement the educational opportunities in the community. This collaboration would give a great example to the community of agencies working together to provide the best possible services to our students. I also ask that you please consider approving a short-term temporary food service contract while GCOA pursues and secures a long-term solution, whether it be with PUSD or elsewhere. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Gwen. Item 3, special business. A, approval of donation. Donation to Page High School cross country from Adventurous Antelope Canyon Tours in the amount of $1,000. Donations to Page High School cross country from Jeanette Sosi Dugay and Ray Dugay in the amount of $300. Donation to Page High School cross country from Page Dental Center in the amount of $100. Donations to Page High School cross country from Strongbows Restaurant in the amount of $100. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve this, all the donations. I want to thank people for donating.
We have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion was made by Sandra, second by Charles. Motion carries with 5 votes. Governing Board reports, item 4A. Mike, would you like to go ahead and start us off?
I don't have anything this time.
Charles?
I don't have anything at this time.
I don't have any, Ms. Sandra.
Dee?
Yes, I was very much involved with the cultural awareness this year, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I'm just really pleased with the staff from the school that made the effort to come out. Not as much to attend, but to help, at least this year. So thank you, staff, for those that were present there.
Thank you, Dee. I'd like to mention that I did attend the GE registration blitz and also the cultural day that took place out in Kaibito and also Navajo Nation JOM conference. We got to see Carlos Begay present. So it was good to see a great amount of support from the Page Unified School District there in attendance. So just want to thank everyone who were involved with all of the planning and whatnot for cultural days. That is it. Item B, superintendent report for comment.
President Fowler, members of the governing board, it has been a busy race to the start of school today. I had an opportunity to spend time out in Inscription House, Kaibito, Bodaway Gap, Lachii, Copper Mine, as well as our registration blitz. Had an opportunity to welcome students, meet parents, talk to grandparents. It was absolutely fantastic to do that outreach out in our community. Did have an opportunity to participate in the cultural awareness day that was held last Monday. Exceptional experience for our new teachers, and there were a number of returning teachers that also participated, came out and were there, got in and truly supported. I would really like to recognize our Indian Education Department, both Carlos and Lorraine. I'd like to recognize our Student Support Services team, who did an exceptional amount of work to make that a reality. Not just the cultural awareness piece, but all of our registration blitzes or outreach. And our transportation department came out and just did amazing work in interacting with our new staff and making the experience what it was. So I want to thank the wonderful team that we have as part of our school district. Had the opportunity to welcome back all our certified staff last Thursday. It was wonderful to see our teachers back. Our teachers truly inspired to do great things this year, and look forward to what the outcomes hold for us. On Friday, we had an opportunity to not just welcome, but really just kick off the 2022-23 school year with all district staff. And it's been a great start. Today, I couldn't ask for a better way to start my day rather than at Lakeview Primary, welcoming those smiling faces to the front doors. The fist bumps I got filled my cup, I think, more than I filled theirs. So great start to the school year, and I'm looking forward to what it holds.
Thank you. Item 6, governing board consent agenda. Sandra, would you like to read the public consent?
Copy of the consent agenda is available at the district administration office. All items listed will be considered as a unit by the governing board and will be approved with one motion. There will not be a separate discussion of these items unless a board member requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered as a separate item. I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
You second it? Oh, I'm sorry, I heard you second it.
Works.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion was made by Sandra, second by Dee. Motion carries with 5 votes. Item 7, calendar of events. Board members, you do have a copy of the calendar of events. Is there any questions in regards to the calendar of events? None, we're gonna go ahead and move on to item 8, additional agenda item. Item A, ESER 3 update. Jeannie Woods.
Governing Board President Fowler, Superintendent Anderson, Governing Board members. A requirement of our ESSER funding is to give a 6-month update regarding continuity of services. A quick overview of ESSER 3, the last in the stimulus packages received by our district, show the time frame here. One of the key things that I want you to remember when we're thinking about this is that it comes from the Act, the American Rescue Plan. And one substantial difference between ESSER 3 funding in comparison to ESSER 1 and ESSER 2 is truly thinking about the time frame of developing an overall sustainability plan with usage of this money. The first two dealt with relief and recovery monies, planning and preparation, and this one really is about building better systems moving forward. Eligibility is based on our income counts, $4.6 million we received from this. The purpose is a fund, it's not necessarily a grant. We can go back to when it was first, from 2020 is when we can go back and use this money, but this one extends to 2024. And another obligation of this grant is to update our safe return to in-person instruction plan. This is a graphic that they would show when considering COVID monies. I want us to move over to the reinventing side of this. And it talks about systematically cultivating better practices, structures, and capabilities towards local visions of extraordinary and equitable learning. When we talk about redoing our strategic plan in the next couple of months, we also need to look at how we're using these monies moving forward. There continues to be other monies coming in from the governor's office, et cetera, that also outlines how we can change our practices moving forward. This graphic also highlights that this work is a difficult lift and it cannot be done alone. So as we continue to move forward in deciding how we're going to spend these monies, one way that they phrase that in AVID is collective educator efficacy or collective educator agency, because it will take entire groups or teams of people coming together to decide what we're doing moving forward so that we can sustain these practices. Here's a brief snapshot of the monetary side of our ESSER funds. ESSER 1 is fully expended. It was just under $500,000. ESSER 2 funds will be fully expended by December of this year. The last part that will go into that is the retention stipends that teachers will receive. And finally, ESSER 3 funding considers this school year and next school year and needs to be fully expended by September of 2024, again in the amount of $4.6 million. The next slides will give you a little better breakdown of where those monies were spent. ESSER 1, or the relief package of the funding, we spent an exorbitant amount of money on our technology expenses. This was during the time when our district had to quickly move to one-to-one technologies for our students. We were in virtual learning only, and we needed to provide hotspots as well. A substantial amount of money within this pot was also spent on PPP items and salaries and benefits for the additional work that we needed for student support service, bus drivers, custodians, et cetera, to do the important work during the relief part of this. ESSER 2, again, these are the three biggest primary spending sources: salary and benefits, not only of the folks that I spoke to and in terms of additional time, but this is also where we built in potential staff members that would have been sunsetted out had we not had these monies available with lesser funding sources coming in. So we built a retention plan to make sure that we had monies available to fund certain positions within this grant. Again, technology expenses also spilled over into ESSER 2 funding, including the continuation of needed technologies for teachers within the classroom. And finally, instructional supplies were spent out of this pot of money. During the time when we were in hybrid learning, and even when students had the ability to come back to in-person instruction, only 40% of our students came back during that time, and we still had 60% of our students engaging in remote instruction only. Therefore, we spent money to provide instructional supplies so that students would have access to those materials at home. For ESSER 3, you're going to see this change slightly. Our number one is still around salaries and benefits. Our salaries and benefits come primarily from our summer school programming and our after-school programming teachers. But again, the continuation of some of our specialists that still are moving forward and the positions that we had built within ESSER 2 as well. Still some additional time for staff members within this, but the majority of that coming from our programming costs. Our capital expenses came out of ESSER 3. So when we're thinking about things that can sustain over time, some of our buses, 2 of our buses came out of ESSER 3. Our HVAC system upgrade came out of ESSER 3, and cleaning equipment to deep clean and keep sanitized our buildings came out of this as a capital expense. Educational technologies. Some of the platforms that we used during hybrid instruction, we've continued using the platforms moving forward. And so those are built into ESSER 3 because we still use those. And the continuation of technology implementation. One idea that we had with the increase in the number of technologies was we still want our teachers to be able to access that. We still want our students to have services that look different after COVID. For example, their ability to access their lessons, our parents' ability to get in and look at what they're doing within the classroom. Those are still important for us to continue. So some of our licenses have continued in ESSER 3. This is the essential question of our return to in-person learning plan. How can PUSD ensure continuity of services, including students' academic needs and students and staff's social, emotional, mental health, and other needs? Every 6 months, and it began with the distance learning plan, and then it switched over to the in-person plan. But we're required to spell this out. I do not draft this plan alone. Peter Jones does the first part of that to speak to what our current mitigation strategies are within the district. The next part of that is developed by looking at how schools are implementing curriculum, instruction, and assessment practices within their buildings. And the last part of that is how we're providing additional supports to our staff to access needed mental health, etc. And this also deals with the social emotional learning aspect. We have narrowed this down to what I call the big 3 that we're focused on. So within the continuity of services plan, a focus on our instructional infrastructure, data-driven practices, and a culture of learning. This particular piece speaks to each of these a little more closely. So in instructional infrastructure, it is ensuring that all students have access to a well-rounded education. That we do provide high-quality curriculum and evidence and standards-based curriculum, and that we have effective instructional strategies. This is part of the reason why we're leaning in on AVID and starting to build a different culture through capturing kids' hearts as part of the social emotional learning of Tier 1. This also goes back to closer examination of our PBIS systems, etc. These are all things that we would want every student to have access to, regardless of whether we've just come out of a pandemic or not. The second one, data-driven decisions. That goes beyond just what we do with classroom data. That's part of the process in thinking about how we make actionable changes based on students' test scores on benchmarks or other checks for understanding that come more frequently. But as we build better systems, we also need to look at how we're using data to drive our funding sources, how we're examining our needs, and ensuring that we're aligning and spending our money appropriately based on what those needs are. And lastly, a culture of high expectations of learning. Again, ensuring that we honor students' diversity, equity, and inclusion practices within the classroom. If you think back to the graphic of one little person trying to push that boulder up the hill, he would get ran over, right? He or she, it's too much for them to carry. So when we think about building this culture moving forward, it's not only a culture within the classroom, it's a culture of team and really looking at what goals we're setting, what our vision of learning is for our district. What are our next steps with this? We do need to continue our monitor our programs moving forward. We need to look at the efficacy of our after-school and summer school programs. We need to ensure that we are aligning our funding sources because in 2024 and with the carry forward period of September of 2025, we want to ensure that we're building programs that once those funding sources go away, we're so well equipped with following the procedures of ensuring that students have those big three of access to learning, creating a culture of learning, and that we're making data-driven decisions. I will stand in front of you again in 6 months to revise this document, if not sooner. The document always lives within our website. As soon as this meeting is over, I send that information to Steve, and that is one of the checks that they make available. For your information, when we started this process, you do have a specialist at the other end of the state that would tell you, hey, you need more information here. We need different information. It doesn't quite answer that. Now on the ADE website, you can see multiple schools' plans and how they have responded to this based on theirs. I pulled a few myself, but that will help us as we're moving forward as well to just see how other schools are using this money. And we get an insight into that by reviewing their plans, so that is helpful. I spoke to this earlier, but we need to continue to build alignment across all of our funding sources. For several years now, because of the influx of this money, entitlement, for example, although based on income eligibility of students, we've been allowed to go back 3 years and pick up what our student count was, the highest student count from that time. When we get our preliminary allocations in March of this year, we will be using this year's true numbers. We need to expect that our entitlement monies are going to go down. Our indirect cost rate jumped this year from 3% to 12%, which is the maximum. So when we have a funding source that is going down, based on those numbers, an indirect cost rate that's going up and an increase in salaries that we're paying overall, we need to come up with a different plan of how we're funding our most valuable resource, which is our staff and our teachers. And finally, this aligns with the work that we're doing to build our strategic plan moving forward, but we need to consider our sustainability plan. We're in a position now where this grant can be revised as many times as necessary, but for some of these things, I failed to mention with the technology, one of the things we originally had within the plan was technology integration specialists as a possibility. We weren't able to make that happen last year because we didn't have full staff at the time. We're in a much better position now. That may be a position that we say, yes, is that still a need within our district to build that in? Or might that be something that we assign to master teachers with an extra stipend? All of those things that we have in there, just careful examination as we blend our funding sources. What questions do you have for me?
Board members, do you have any questions? Sandra, do you have any questions? All right, thank you, Jean. Item B, possible approval of qualified evaluator. Looks like we have Bryce Anderson, Penny Case, Nancy Warner, Brian Henderson. Sorry, there's some typos on here. Elisa Covington, Kevin Anderson, Trina Hubble, Lee Gunther, Teresa Robbins, Charles Sharp, Armenia Tantani. Board members, we have a motion.
You'd say
We're
first.
still on there too?
Oh, I didn't see Mary's. Oh yeah, Mary Stahl's on there. Sorry, skipped her name.
I make a motion to approve the qualified evaluators as presented.
I second.
Charles, is that you that second? Superintendent Anderson?
President Fowler, members of the governing board, I can confirm that the people that are moving forward have all gone through the qualified evaluator training and are able to serve in that capacity.
Board members, do you have any questions? No questions. Any questions? None. All right. We had a motion that was made by Sandra, second by Charles. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries with 5 votes. Item C, possible approval of staff handbook. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the staff handbook.
I'll second.
Superintendent Anderson?
President Fowler, members of the governing board, I know that the staff handbook continues to be a work in progress. Felt it important for it to come to the board as we start a new school year. Our talent management team is continuing to work and revise, and we will be bringing a revised copy back to the board in the near future.
Board members, do you have any questions?
Nope.
No questions. All right. Motion was made by Sandra, second by Mike. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries with 5 votes. Item D, consideration and possible action to appoint name to represent Paige Fight as the district delegate at the Arizona School Board Association Delegate Assembly on September 11th, 2022. Do we have a motion to discuss?
I make a motion to discuss.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Who wants to go?
First of all, who's all attending?
Who wants to be the representative? I guess.
Yeah.
What's that? You're attending, okay, Dee's attending. Are you attending the conference, Mike?
Not sure yet.
Not sure yet. Charles?
September 10th.
So Dee and I for sure will be attending.
I won't be there.
I'll be there.
You'll be there,
Friday,
Charles?
It's Friday, Thursday and Friday.
Thursday and Friday is a conference. Pre-conference is on Wednesday. And the delegate assembly is gonna be on Saturday. I, as executive member of the Arizona School Board Association, I don't have a choice but to be there for the delegate assembly. So I don't mind being representing on behalf of the school district if need be.
You want to do it? No.
Can't make it.
I think you're the only one who wants to do it.
All right.
I will nominate you then.
Do you have a second?
Okay, I was just making a motion.
Go ahead.
I make a motion to select Desiree to represent Paige Unified School District as the district delegate to the ASB Delegate Assembly.
I second.
Second. Motion was made by Sandra, second by Charles. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries with 5 votes. Item E, discussion and possible action to approve the Arizona School Board Association Draft 2023 political agenda and direct the district's delegate to the ASBA's Delegate Assembly to represent the board determined position. Do you have a motion?
Yeah, what's this?
Comments?
Oh,
So motion to discuss. Do we have a motion to discuss?
I'll make a motion to discuss.
All right, Mike.
I'll second.
All right. It is up for discussion.
Get an explanation, what it kind of is.
And we need to determine our top 5 priorities and all that stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's no attachment to it.
President
Why
Fowler,
do we need to do this?
if I can refer you back to the prior item, it
Okay.
has all of the
Got it.
supporting documentation related to, and if you specifically go to page 3 of that document, it's a report of the ASBA Legislative Committee draft 2023 political agenda.
Just describe the whole process, because we've got a few board members. I've done this before.
So what happens is, since I will be representing on behalf of the Page Unified School District, basically it's just a member from each school district is in attendance, and just kind of like an open meeting, so there's a lot of discussion. Sometimes it can be from a half a day to a full day, where there is a lot of changes that take places with wording and just agreement, disagreement, but it's just in regards to each of the political agenda item that the legislative, well, this one is gonna be the legislative committee draft. So basically it is what the, I guess, how we would want ASBA to represent us at the legislation.
When do we have to send this invite? Did you see that? 11.
And just also, this is a continuous thing, so it's rewritten annually, just kind of giving you a heads up.
Oh, good.
So if you have any questions, you can let me know, or we can get it situated by the next study session, I guess. Is that what we want to do?
We can certainly bring it to the August 23rd study session for discussion and
Yeah.
possible action item
Sounds good.
to vote in support. One of the pieces that I would make sure to bring your attention to is on page 6. It's labeled as Roman numeral 5. Specifically speaks to a number of the things that as a rural and remote school district here in Page are critical and important. But we can certainly discuss further at the study session on the 23rd.
Definitely. And I do appreciate, and just to let everyone know here, that there is a lot more advocacy for rural schools now. So that's really unique. I think at first that the executive board or the board of directors didn't really see the transparency for rural schools, but it has come quite a ways within the past couple of years. So yeah, it's always up for discussion as well too.
So basically what we need to do is everybody needs to study this document and then pick your top 5 to 10 things that you feel are important.
Okay. Yep.
And then we're gonna sit down and decide as a board, what are our top 5 priorities, but you kind of need to bring your own top 5 priorities and be ready to discuss them.
All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and table that to the 23rd of August.
Can we make a motion to table the item?
I second.
All right. Motion was made by Sandra, second by Charles to to table the agenda item to August 23rd. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries with 5 votes. Item F, second reading and possible approval of policy JKD. JKD is in regards to student suspension. Board members, do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve policy JKD.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Sorry, Superintendent Anderson.
President Fowler, members of the governing board, this is the second read of policy JKD. The changes in this policy changed the word shall to may to allow for flexibility related to transitioning students from the school environment into the alternative to assessment without having to spend the time and energy going through the hearing process. However, it still allows the district to follow that process if it is appropriate.
Board members, do you have any questions?
Nope.
No. Dee, do you have any questions? All right, moving along. Oh, sorry. Motion was made by Sandra, second by Mike. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries with 5 votes. Item G, possible approval to invoke policy BGF to policy BGB. Policy, or, I'm sorry, let me read that over. Possible,
And just make the motion.
okay.
I make a motion to invoke policy BGF for policy BGB and move forward with the adoption of the revision of the changed name days to align with payroll practices.
Board members, do we have a motion? Thank you, Sandra.
I'll second.
All right. Superintendent Anderson.
President Fowler, members of the governing board, it was brought to my attention this summer that policy GDL, which is ultimately being changed, is not aligned in district policy with our practice related to payroll. Specifically, GDL is support staff workload. What we are asking to do is to waive the first read and move directly to a second read and adoption so that we can align our policy with our practices. The original policy identified the start of the work week as Monday and ending the work week on Sunday. However, due to our payroll timelines, our practice is to start our work week on Friday and conclude the work week on Thursday. This simply codifies it in policy moving forward.
Thank you. Board members, do you have any questions? Dee, none? All right, thank you for that. Board members, we have a motion that was made by Sandra, second by Mike. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries with 5 votes. Item H, first reading of policy advisory number 716, JLDAB, referrals to other agencies, JLDAB-R referrals to other agencies, and JLDAB-E referrals to other agencies. And this is a first reading. Superintendent Anderson?
President Fowler, members of the governing board, this came to us in July from the Arizona School Boards Association. This policy advisory derives from legislation passed in 2020. In 2020, the Arizona legislature passed Jake's Law, which created a fund that provided uninsured and underinsured children access to behavioral health services when they are referred through an educational institution, otherwise known as a school-based referral. To make school-based referrals, the legislature required school district and charter schools to pass a policy that outlined the law as it relates to school-based referrals. And along with the requirements of that law, there are a number of things that the district has to do, which is outlined in the regulation as well as the exhibits.
Thank you, board members. Do you have any questions?
No.
None? Thank you. Moving along to item I, job description discussion and possible approval for after-school programming facilitator.
Make a motion, we approve the job description for the after-school programming paraprofessional position. Oh, whoops, did I get the wrong one? Sorry,
Uh,
jumped ahead. Sorry, I'll do it again. Scratch that. I make a motion to approve the job description for the after-school programming facilitator position. Sorry.
Superintendent Anderson.
President Fowler, this position description is a new position description aligned with supporting what Ms. Wood talked about in our ESER 3 obligation related to learning loss. At this point in time, we do not have before or after school position descriptions in place. We are looking to launch our before and after school programming here within the next 2 weeks. Typically, I like to bring position descriptions to a study session for discussion, but because of the way July played out, I'm bringing them to you as individual agenda items for approval.
Thank you. Board members, do you have any questions?
No.
None. All right, Sandra made motion, second was by Dee. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries with 5 votes.
Okay.
Item J.
No, I'll do that one. Okay, I make a motion to approve the job description for the after-school programming paraprofessional position.
Thank you, Sandra. Do we have a second motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mike. Superintendent Anderson.
It goes in line with what I shared. This is a paraprofessional for after-school support.
Thank you. Board members, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries with 5 votes. Item K, job description, discussion, and possible approval for after-school teacher
Okay,
internal.
I make a motion to approve the job description for the after-school teacher position.
Second,
A second.
and as the superintendent had mentioned, it is aligned with what was previously shared with us, so we're gonna go right ahead and ask for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries with 5 votes. Item L, job description, discussion, and possible approval of before school programming paraprofessional. And this is an internal position.
I make a motion to approve the job description for the before-school programming paraprofessional position.
Thank you, Dee. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, motion was made by Sandra, second by Dee. Motion carries with 5 votes. Item M, job description, discussion, and possible approval of before school programming site coordinator, also an internal position.
I make a motion to approve the job description for the before-school programming site coordinator position.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion, a second was made by Dee. Board members, again, this was also kind of continuous information. Motion was made by Sandra, second by Dee. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries with 5 votes. Item N, job description, discussion, and possible approval of before school teacher, also an internal position.
I make a motion to approve the job description for the before-school teacher position.
Second,
Second.
motion was made by Sandra, second by Dee. Continuous information that's being shared. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries with 5 votes. Item O, job description, discussion, and possible approval of after-school Edgenuity courseware teacher, also internal position.
Make a motion to approve the job description for the after-school Edgenuity courseware teacher position.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
A second.
Second was made by Dee. Board members, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries with 5 votes. Item P, job description, discussion, and possible approval of the mentor teacher internal position. Motion, do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the job description for mentor teacher position.
Is there a second? Second was made by Dee. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries with 5 votes. Item Q, job description, revision, discussion, and possible approval of Avid tutor.
Make a motion to approve the revised job description for the avid tutor position.
Do we have a second? Superintendent Anderson.
President Fowler, members of the governing board, this position description is brought to you related to opening up opportunities for a avid tutor. This was something that was last used, from what I understand, back pre-pandemic. We are looking at updating the position description to require attendance at tutor training classes and to utilize the avid learning strategies while tutoring other students. So it is simply an update and revision to allow us to move back into allowing students an opportunity to serve in a paid tutoring role.
Thank you, board members. Do you have any questions?
No.
No questions. Sandra made the first motion, second by Dee. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries with 5 votes. Item 9, executive session. Item A, call for executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A1. The governing board may convene in executive session to introduce Jeannie Woods to the board.
Make a motion to go into executive session.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Do you want to go ahead and read? Do we read first?
No, we'll go first.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion was made by Sandra, second by Mike. Motion carries with 5 votes. We'd like to ask everyone to exit the boardroom, please. Or to do it.
Right in time, right?
Executive.
Good job.
Board members,
executive